Let's talk about the inguinal hernia. That unexpected bulge in the groin area. The first question on everyone's mind is, okay, so how do you fix it? Well, today we are going to decode the entire world of inguinal hernia surgery. We're going to go from the old school methods with sutures all the way to modern keyhole scopes. Let's jump right in.
So, here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off with the absolute basics, then we'll journey through the classic surgical repairs. After that, we'll see exactly why mesh became the new champion, explore the incredible minimally invasive options, and then, at the end, we'll pull it all together so you can see how everything stacks up.
All right, first things first. What in the world is an inguinal hernia? You might see or feel a bulge down there that definitely wasn't there before. And yeah, it can be a little alarming. So what is actually going on underneath the skin? Okay, I want you to imagine your abdominal muscles as a strong, tightly woven piece of fabric. Now, an inguinal hernia is basically a rip or a weak spot that develops in that fabric. And through that little hole, part of your intestine can start to bulge through. And that is the lump that you see.
So how do you fix this rip in the fabric? Well, the very first approach was the most direct one you could imagine. You just sew it shut. And this brings us to what we call the classic anatomical repairs.
The whole idea here was, hey, let's use what the body already has. Surgeons would find the edges of that weak spot in the abdominal wall and literally pull them together with stitches. Now, the key word I want you to remember here is tension, because you are physically pulling tissues together, creating a repair that is under constant strain from day one.
So, the modified Bassini repair was really one of the foundational techniques. It just pulled two key structures together. But surgeons quickly realized that a single line of stitches could fail under all that tension. This led to the next big evolution, the shoulderless repair. Instead of just one layer, it created this complex four-layer repair. They did this by double-breasting the tissue, kind of like buttoning a coat twice. The idea was to spread that tension out over a wider area, making it stronger. But that fundamental problem, the tension, it was still there.
Right, so even with a better technique like the shoulderless repair, hernias would still sometimes come back. Why? Well, that darn tension. And this led to a completely revolutionary shift in thinking. What if instead of trying to sew the rip shut, you just patched it?
And this right here, this is the absolute game changer. The entire philosophy flipped on its head. It went from creating a tension repair to achieving a tension-free repair. This simple but brilliant concept is the whole reason mesh-based surgery became the gold standard. The goal was now to get rid of that constant strain on the repair.
And this is it. This is the Lichtenstein repair, the most common type of open hernia surgery done today. You can see the synthetic mesh is laid over the weakness, just like a patch. It bridges the gap. Then, your body's own tissue grows into and around the mesh, creating this super strong permanent reinforcement. And it does all of this without putting any stress on the surrounding muscle. It's brilliant.
So why did this completely take over? Well, the benefits are just crystal clear. First, being tension-free means it's a way more durable repair, which leads to a really low rate of the hernia ever coming back. Second, the Prolene mesh they use is incredibly strong and it integrates beautifully with your own tissues. And here's a huge plus. This procedure can often be done under local anesthesia, which is much safer for a lot of patients. The mesh was a game changer, no doubt about it. But the next evolution wasn't about what you use, but how you put it in place. And this brought us into the minimally invasive era of laparoscopic surgery. The whole idea here is to avoid that big open incision you get with the Lichtenstein repair. Instead, surgeons make a few tiny keyhole incisions. They insert a camera and some really specialized instruments, and then they place the mesh from the inside, behind that weak spot. It's almost like patching a tire from the inside out. Now, within laparoscopy, there are two main ways to do this, TAPP and TEP. The key difference all comes down to the peritoneum. That's the thin membrane that lines your whole abdominal cavity. With TAPP, the surgeon goes through the peritoneum to get to the hernia. But with TEP, the surgeon works outside of it, in a space they create, so they never actually enter the main abdominal cavity at all. And that can sometimes reduce the risk of injury to other organs. Wow. Okay, from sewing tissues together to using high-tech patches placed through keyholes, we've covered a lot of ground. So let's pull all these ideas together now.
This table really sums it all up beautifully, doesn't it? You can see the clear progression. We start with the classics, the open repairs, using the body's own tissue, which, as we know, creates tension. Then we move to the modern open repair, the Lichtenstein, which uses a synthetic mesh for that tension-free patch. And finally, we have the laparoscopic techniques, tap and tap, which also use a mesh, but they do it through a minimally invasive approach. Each step just builds on the last, all aiming for a stronger repair, more comfort, and a faster recovery.
You know, when you think about it, the evolution from simple sutures to patches to keyholes is just incredible. It makes you wonder, with all the advancements we're seeing in robotics and new biomaterials, what's next? What do you think the future of surgery holds? Thanks for joining me for this one.